Hey guys, hope you're well. And in this video, I'm back with another success story as I promised in my last video. This will be manifesting a specific person's success story, and I will be including a lot of things. This will be very informative for you, especially because this one client, she after receiving success is facing the exact struggle that every person faces who does not work on their self concept. This is why I keep on promoting self concept work to a very great degree, not because I get any benefit from it, but because if you won't do it and you just keep on focusing on your manifestations, it gives you a very short term result, right? And if we want the long term result that we are looking so deeply for, then we will be need to be in a position where we can first focus on the longevity of the thing and receive it fully. So let's understand the story in detail. I will share as many details as possible and then we will take it from there. So first, let me read the success story for you guys. So this is the success story. So I got a text from this client, I think a while back, where she mentioned this. She said, an update. This person texted me and told me he wants to be with me forever and asked me to meet him. He said he realized how stupid he was for not being able to take a stand for us, and he's not scared of anything anymore. He confessed that he loves me a lot and misses me. Though I'm not Though I'm happy as I always wanted this, but I want to take my time. I'm not at all obsessed and desperate like before, but instead very calm and want to give myself some time. So, first, I will start by explaining her background, then, I will explain her story, then, I will explain what we worked on and what are the things that we still need to target and still need to work on for this to actually turn into some sustainable resolution. So, this client comes to me and she's a woman, and her story goes because she used to live in a family where there were a lot of unhealthy toxic relationships, now primarily being the one with her father. So her father used to not be fully loyal to her mom, and she saw this when she was younger. The cycle went in a way where she saw her father actually not being loyal and actually hide it. And even after this came to light, she got to know, her family got to know, her siblings got to know, the father didn't actually agree to it. Even though it was very apparent that this was happening, her father didn't actually agree to it. Now, when something like this happens, and I will also, tell you how and what it affects. When something like this happens, it creates a mistrust when it comes to men, especially when you are younger. Because as you're growing up, the first male figure in your life is usually your father. And if the father figure in my life is someone I cannot trust because they to a degree are gaslighting me, I will not be in a position where I would be able to trust men later down the line too. This is one of the trouble that she's facing now. So to protect ourselves from further down the line being hurt by men, we will often create this negative perception of men in our mind, so that the next time my genuine default setting would be to assume that men are worthless and men cannot be trusted. Because if I just assume that I cannot trust men, then later if in any relationships I get hurt by them, at least I wouldn't be that hurt. Because expecting something to go well and then it not going well, and expecting something to fail and then it failing, are totally different feelings. The second one is not as hurtful as the first one, because by that time we have hope, and in the second one we just don't have it, we just are expecting to fail, so we prepare ourselves for failure. Now, what she saw with her mom was that her mom didn't actually have the tools because of her own situation, her own life, her own conditioning to walk away. And at this time, her mom settled, and even when the father didn't agree, her mom kept on allowing this relationship to move forward. Now, she did it because of her own reasons and whatever tools that she had available, with the information that she had available with her own conditioning. But eventually, what this teaches the girl is that, I am going to grow up, and when someone treats me wrong in a relationship, just because I don't want to face the consequences of it, I will be in a position where I will accept it and I will allow it again and again, just because I don't want to face the consequences of dealing with this, right? Which is of course hurtful. If her mom would have taken a stand for herself, she would have went away and asked for a divorce, or would have actually confronted the father figure. And because that would require her to face the society, face herself, all these are genuine feelings. Like, now it's, we know something intellectually that maybe we should, then maybe we should face it, but these are genuine feelings, and the fear sometimes is too strong for us to deal with, especially when we don't have the tools available to deal with it. So that's why it's very important to understand. It's not about blaming her mom for her own situation. It's about understanding how her conditioning is made, right? So that she can later change it. That's what the whole point is. So as she grew up, this girl, she saw this in a regular pattern, and her relationship with her father, even though it got better, it never got as better, because this thing with infidelity became a regular thing. When it keeps on going on for a regular period of time, it's not something that you are able to see as something wrong. You start to see it as something normal, right? So even though we know something is wrong, we start to consider it as normal. But another thing that happens here is that we create a bar for ourselves of what we don't want. So even if we consider it as normal, we have decided in our mind that this is something I don't want, right? So this is something I won't accept. But because of that, because this in itself is something that is very, very, it's a very extreme situation. So anything above that starts to feel like a win, right? So if we are in this kind of a situation, anything above that starts to feel like a win. Anything above this starts to feel amazing. Anything above this starts to feel acceptable. So our mind starts to tell us that, oh, this person is treating me wrong. That's okay, because at least he's not cheating, right? Then what happened is she eventually moved cities, and she got involved with another with a guy. And this guy with whom she got involved with was not committing from the start. He was a very hot and cold person, but because in her mind there were two situations that were involved. One, she was trying to earn his love, because she has not earned the love of a male figure in her life yet. So when she sees someone, she sees him as a project to win, and a project that will validate her, not a romantic potential relationship, which is the first thing that was happening. The second thing is, because she saw that my mom allowed these kind of things in her life, so of course maybe allowing some kinds of things is totally fine. Her perception of relationships were not so good. So once we allow toxicity in our mind and we start to assume that it is a normal part of a relationship, we just don't have it in one way. It can come in any way, right? So someone being hot and cold very regularly and me accepting it very regularly is another form of toxicity. Now their situation, it kept on going on, and this person was not committing, but he was also very back and forth. In her situation, what was happening is that he was saying that some things, but his actions were not following through. She was convincing herself that my reason for settling in this situation is because he's saying these things. But just like you, if you say something, in itself it doesn't mean much. You have to follow it through with your actions, right? That is what I keep talking about, that your affirmations in themselves won't mean much if they are not followed through by your actions. Similarly, in his situation, she was giving herself that my reason for being in this situation consistently is because, one, this is what maybe women are supposed to be in relationships. Two, maybe some toxicity is allowed in relationships. Three, this guy is a project that if I actually change him, I would be able to believe that men can change. And last, it becomes a situation because I have set the bar so low for myself that anything above that starts to feel like a win. So anything that is not involving cheating starts to feel like a win. Now, this situation kept on going on for a pretty long time. To be honest, it's 5 years, right? And this at this time, she does not know manifestation or anything. She has just been going on in this situation. Now, if something has been going on for such a long time, it becomes our default setting. We start to assume that to be a normal part of the dynamic. We start to assume that it is going to be normal even in the future situations, right? So when we started working together, the first thing I told her that, you know what, right now you have created this situation by accepting it regularly. It's not about blame. It's about self-accountability. The reason that we need to take responsibility is not because taking responsibility will lesser us as a human being. It's because if we are not accepting responsibility for our past action in our demise, how can we expect that our new actions will actually give us good results? We just cannot assume that, because it won't work that way, right? It won't actually give us the benefits that we are looking for. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing that we talked about was that eventually her working on herself might mean that she might stop even wanting this person, and she was very okay with that. At the start was slightly defensive, which is fine because people can be defensive towards that, especially when you have spent so much time investing into a situation. But she was open towards the idea that, you know what, this is something that might happen. Now, after we started pulling away, we started cutting the contact as of now, because she had to walk away. We started creating boundaries. We started working on our self-concept for the start and our perceptions of relationships. While we were working on these things, of course, it started having a positive effect in her. She started feeling good, confident, powerful, and she started thinking that I do have something to offer. Then this person started reaching out. So first he started reaching out with whatever he was offering, which is the calls and the texts and I miss yous and everything. Now the one thing that this person did very well was that she was adamant on her boundaries even when he was doing this, because this is a very common theme that people start working on themselves and their specific person starts to reach out, but then that middle thing that they start to offer you, you start to consider it as a win and start to accept it. But then the pattern repeats. It's just that you got a bigger breadcrumb. But she was very adamant that I'm not going to get involved into this situation and I'm not going to settle for anything lesser than what I fully want and fully deserve. So she was very firm with it till one day this person came and expressed his feelings. Now, what are the further issues that this person is facing and what are the things that we are still working on so that we can get better? Now that this person has started reaching out, because we were still working on our perceptions of relationships and everything, she is still in a zone where she assumes that men are always going to be this way, right? So because that is still her default setting in some areas, which comes out of instinct, and whenever this person came to her, for her to assume and believe that this person is changing or will change is actually a very difficult thing, because of which any time that this person does anything even slightly opposite to what she wants, she starts to mentally assume that this situation is going bad, right? Because in her mind he's incapable of change. But this is where we are slightly hypocritical. Sorry if that is hurtful, but we are slightly hypocritical because we are assuming we can change but not anyone else, which is not true. Now, if she wants to pursue this relationship or not is eventually going to be her decision, because yes, this is a very real fear, and even if we understand the reason behind the fear, we still feel it, and when we feel it, it feels fully real, right? So yes, this fear exists, and yes, this is something that we are working on. And if she chooses to pursue this relationship, she will have to understand that this fear will exist for a while, because the fear exists not because the other person is not changing, but because to a degree we are not able to rely on ourselves. We are unable to rely on the fact that we would be able to stay firm on our boundaries and our mindset when it comes to it, because a part of us feels that if we go back and we allow this person in our life again, we will lose all the self-concept work that we have been doing. So these are the things that we are working on. It's still a work in progress, and we will be getting better at it. We will be improving our situation from here, and we will be eventually getting to the success that we want. I love working with this client. She's very open and she's very adamant to change herself, and she's very non-defensive about working towards it, right? So she's actually very open to, when I tell her that this is not something that is going well, she's very open to take that and to work on it. That's what we are focusing on, and we will continue to focus on it, and I will update you as the story goes. But yeah, a very good success story, and she is actually doing very well and also thriving in other areas of her life. So I will see you guys in the next video and hope you have a good one.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and share if you like the video. The link for my one-on-one coaching, my self-help courses, and my free newsletter are in the description box below.